Hey everyone! Tonight we're reimagining the tortoise and the hare through the eyes of a tortoise who discovers the world of self-improvement literature. You might remember this tale differently from childhood, where determination simply beats arrogance. But tonight, our shelled friend finds wisdom in unexpected places before that famous race even begins. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know in the comments which fairy tale you'd like to hear reimagined next. Perhaps a mindful Three Little Pigs or a boundary-setting Goldilocks. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's whispered tale. The morning sun warms your ancient shell as you make your way across the meadow, each deliberate step pressing sweet clover beneath your weathered feet. You've walked this path for 20 seasons, knowing every stone, every soft patch of earth where wild strawberries grow. But today, something unusual catches your eye near your favorite basking rock, the flat granite stone where generations of your ancestors have soaked in afternoon warmth. Scattered across the grass lie several colorful rectangles, their edges fluttering like butterfly wings in the breeze. Books, you realize, though you've only seen them from afar when humans picnic near the forest edge. These must have tumbled from someone's bag, forgotten after yesterday's summer storm. Curiosity draws you closer, your neck extending cautiously, as tortoises do when investigating something new. The first book's cover shows a mountain peak touched by golden sunrise. Reach your peak potential, the words spell out in letters as tall as dandelions. Rain has warped its pages, but you can still make out phrases about morning routines and successful habits. Your small, dark eyes study the strange symbols, and somehow, perhaps through the old magic that lets all creatures understand important things, the meanings begin to bloom in your mind like spring flowers opening. You nose the book aside to find another beneath. This one displays a peaceful lake reflecting clouds. The power of slow, embracing your natural pace. Your heart, beating its steady tortoise rhythm of 6 beats per minute, seems to recognize something kindred in these words. Page after water-stained page speaks of patience as strength, of consistency as a superpower, of how the world's ancient trees grow slowly but surely toward the sky. A third book lies half buried in grass, its cover showing a winding path through woods. Mindful Steps, a journey to self-discovery. You carefully turn its pages with your beak, finding chapters about breathing exercises, gratitude practices, and something called visualization. The illustrated human sitting cross-legged reminds you of how you rest in your shell, pulled inward, safe and contemplative. The sun climbs higher as you explore this unexpected library. You learn about SMART goals, though you translate them into tortoise terms. Specific, like finding the sweetest dandelion patch. Measurable, like counting the days until mulberry season. Achievable, like reaching the stream before noon. Relevant, like storing energy for winter's long sleep, time-bound like completing your territory walk before sunset. You discover affirmations and practice whispering them in your ancient tortoise language that sounds like wind through hollow logs. I am steady and strong. My pace is perfect for my purpose. Every step forward is progress. The words feel strange at first, like wearing dewdrops as decorations, but soon they settle into your thoughts like seeds in fertile soil. By midday, you've absorbed ideas that seem both foreign and familiar. The books speak of morning routines, and you realize you've always had one. Emerge from your burrow at first light, check the sky for hawks, stretch each leg in turn, choose the day's first direction by reading the wind. They mention journaling, and you think of the patterns you trace in dust, marking territory, leaving stories for other tortoises to read. As afternoon warmth peaks, you arrange the books carefully beneath a blackberry bush where they'll stay dry. These aren't meant for you to keep, but their whispered wisdom has already taken root. You practice what one book called box breathing, though your natural breathing has always been deep and measured, filtered through ancient lungs that know the secret of conservation. The meadow looks the same, but you see it differently now. Each blade of grass becomes an opportunity for mindful eating. Your usual path transforms into a walking meditation. The simple act of withdrawing into your shell becomes what the books called self-care and boundaries. Evening approaches with its chorus of crickets and tree frogs. You've spent the entire day not traveling far in distance, but journeying deeply into new ways of thinking. Tomorrow, you decide you'll start implementing these discoveries. A morning gratitude practice, perhaps, thanking the earth for its firm support, the sun for its warmth, the rain for keeping the plants you eat so green and tender. 3 sunrises later, you've established what the books called a morning ritual. You emerge from your burrow just as dawn paints the eastern sky in shades of persimmon and plum. First comes your gratitude practice, performed while still half-tucked in your shell. Thank you for this sturdy home I carry, you whisper. Thank you for the dew that will quench my thirst. Thank you for another day to grow. You've even started a journal of sorts, using a stick held carefully in your mouth to draw symbols in a smooth patch of sand near your burrow. A circle for the sun when it shines, wavy lines for rain, little dots for the berries you find. Today, you add a spiral, representing the meditation walk you completed yesterday. Round and round the ancient oak until you felt centered as its roots. The morning progresses with what you now call intentional foraging. Instead of simply eating whatever greenery you encounter, you pause before each plant, appreciating its color, texture, and gift of nourishment. A shaft of sunlight illuminates the water droplets on a particularly succulent piece of chickweed, and you take a moment to practice that mindful eating the books described. That's when you hear it, a thundering of paws against earth, rapid as raindrops in a summer storm. Before you can even fully extend your neck to look, A brown blur resolves into the shape of Hare, his long ears casting shadows across your breakfast. He skids to a stop, sending up a small cloud of dust that makes you blink slowly. "Well, well, well," Hare says, his nose twitching with barely contained laughter. "What do we have here? Old Shellback drawing pictures in the dirt?" His large hind foot taps impatiently, a rhythm that speaks of constant motion, of creatures who live life at hummingbird speed. You continue chewing your chickweed thoughtfully, remembering what you read about responding rather than reacting. After swallowing, you meet his bright, mocking eyes. "Good morning, Hare. I'm journaling. It's a practice for tracking progress and insights." The laughter bursts from him like seeds from a pod. He hops in a circle around you, so fast it makes your head swim to follow. "Journaling? Progress? Oh, this is rich. What progress could you possibly need to track?" Let's see. Monday, moved 3 feet. Tuesday, moved 4 feet. Wednesday, ate a dandelion. Riveting stuff. Heat rises beneath your shell, an unfamiliar defensiveness. The books had mentioned this too, something about protecting your energy and not taking things personally. You breathe deeply, imagining your breath as cool stream water flowing through you. "Everyone moves at their own pace," you say, quoting almost directly from The Power of Slow. "My progress might look different from yours, but it's still valuable." Hare stops his circling to stare at you, whiskers twitching with incredulity. "Your own pace? Valuable? You sound like you swallowed a fortune cookie." He notices your sand journal and reads the simple symbols. "Oh, this is precious. Are these supposed to be affirmations? Let me guess. I am slow and steady. Every inch counts. Speed isn't everything." "Actually," you say, surprising yourself with your calm tone, "today's affirmation is, I choose peace over proving points." This sends Hare into fresh peals of laughter. He rolls on his back, powerful hind legs kicking at the air. "Oh, Tortoise, what has gotten into that ancient shell of yours? Did you bump your head? Eat some fermented berries?" You consider mentioning the books, but decide against it. Something in Hare's energy reminds you of a chapter on energy vampires and how some individuals drain rather than sustain your peace. Instead, you return to your breakfast, practicing the gray rock technique of becoming uninteresting to those who seek reaction. But Hare isn't finished. He springs upright, grooming his ears with quick strokes. "You know what? This is too good. Everyone needs to hear about Tortoise's new philosophy." "Hey everyone," he calls out to the meadow at large. Tortoise is journaling. Tortoise has affirmations. Next thing you know, he'll be hosting meditation circles. From the trees, a few sparrows twitter with interest. A squirrel pauses in his acorn, gathering to watch. Even the old badger pokes her striped head from her den. An audience gathers, as audiences do when Hare performs. "Tell them about your progress tracking, Tortoise," Hare urges, his voice dripping honey-sweet mockery. "Tell them how you're documenting your journey from that rock to that slightly further rock." You feel the weight of many eyes upon you. The old you would have retreated into your shell, waiting for the attention to pass like a summer storm. But something from those rain-warped pages whispers in your mind about standing in your truth and authentic self-expression. I have learned you begin, your voice carrying the deep resonance of earth and age, that progress isn't always about distance covered. Sometimes it's about depth discovered. While you've read across the meadow, Hare, I'm learning to race against my yesterday self. A murmur ripples through the gathered creatures. Hare's ears flatten slightly, his amusement flickering like a candle in wind. Race against yourself? That's just something slow creatures say to feel better about being slow. Perhaps you acknowledge, remembering a passage about holding space for others' perspectives. Or perhaps it's something creatures discover when they stop comparing and start growing. Hare's competitive nature flares bright as wildfire. Oh, you want to talk about growing? About progress? Fine. Let's make this interesting. Let's have a real race. Tortoise, you versus me, from the big oak to the stream. Then we'll see whose philosophy wins, your mindful steps or my natural speed. The meadow holds its breath. Even the wind seems to pause in the grass. You stand perfectly still for a moment, feeling the earth beneath your feet, solid and unchanging. The challenge hangs in the air like pollen, waiting to settle. Around you, the gathered creatures lean forward, anticipating your response. A race against Hare. The very idea would have seemed absurd just days ago, before you discovered those books with their strange wisdom about believing in yourself. I accept, you hear yourself saying, the words emerging as naturally as breath. Though I propose we race not tomorrow, but 3 days hence. At dawn, when the dew still silvers the grass, Hare's laughter rebounds like an echo. 3 days? What? Need time to oil your shell? Polish your scales? Oh wait, I know. You need to visualize success, right? He winks at the crowd, playing to his audience with the ease of someone who has always been the fastest, the first, the most noticed. Preparation is part of any meaningful endeavor, you reply, drawing from a chapter on strategic planning. 3 days at dawn, from the oak to the stream. Fine, fine, Hare waves a dismissive paw. Take a week if you want. Take a month. Won't change the outcome. I could hop backwards and still beat you to that stream. He bounds away, already spreading news of the upcoming spectacle. As the crowd disperses, chattering excitedly, you make your way to a quiet corner of the meadow where purple asters bloom. Here, beneath the sheltering leaves of a wild grapevine, you begin what the books called mental preparation. First comes the breathing, deep and rhythmic, drawing air through your nostrils and holding it in your ancient lungs before releasing slowly. You close your eyes and begin the visualization exercise. In your mind's eye, you see yourself at the starting line beside the oak. You feel the morning cool against your shell, smell the distinctive scent of oak bark and moss. You visualize taking that first step, then another, maintaining steady rhythm. The books emphasized seeing yourself succeeding, so you picture yourself moving with purpose across the meadow, each step deliberate and strong. "I am capable," you whisper, practicing the affirmations that felt so foreign just days ago. "I trust my pace. I honor my journey." The words settle into your consciousness like seeds into soil. Meanwhile, across the meadow, Hare has established himself atop a fallen log, regaling anyone who will listen with predictions of his victory. It'll be over before Tortoise reaches the first dandelion patch, he announces, demonstrating with a lightning-quick sprint that carries him 20 yards and back before most creatures can blink. I'm thinking of giving him a head start. Maybe sleep in a bit, have a leisurely breakfast, make it sporting. As afternoon fades to evening, you continue your preparation. The books mention something called muscle memory, and while your muscles are ancient and deliberate, you practice the route. Not quickly, but mindfully, noting where the ground dips, where roots might catch an unwary foot, where the morning shadows will fall. Each landmark becomes part of your mental map. The second day dawns misty and cool. You emerge to find evidence of Hare's continued boasting, little tracks everywhere showing where he's been demonstrating his speed. You can hear him in the distance, his voice carrying, as he describes to a group of rabbits how he'll probably have time to circle back and check on your progress mid-race. You spend the morning in what the books called positive visualization combined with realistic assessment. Yes, Hare is faster. This is simply fact, like rain being wet or summer being warm. But the books spoke of finding your unique advantages. You ponder this while munching on tender clover. Your advantages: endurance, certainly. Focus, definitely. Once you begin something, you continue until it's complete. You don't get distracted by applause or approval. And lately, you've developed something new: this ability to maintain inner calm, regardless of outer circumstances. Speed is not the only measure of success, you remind yourself, creating a new mantra for the race. Completion is its own victory. That afternoon, you practice something called pressure breathing from the sports psychology chapter. When anxiety about the race rises like heat shimmer, you breathe it away, imagining each exhale carries doubt out of your shell. You visualize not just the race, but beyond it, seeing yourself returning to normal life, whether you win or lose, still the same Tortoise, but somehow expanded. Badger shambles over during your meditation, her gray striped face curious. "Heard about the race?" she says simply. Hare's taking bets, offering 10-to-1 odds against you. "And what do you think?" you ask, genuinely interested. She considers, her dark eyes thoughtful. "I think Hare's never actually finished anything in his life. Always too busy starting the next thing. But you? I've watched you circle this meadow every single day for 15 seasons. Same route, same pace, never missed a day." She waddles away without waiting for response. Her words stay with you as evening approaches. You add them to your collection of affirmations, these observations from someone who has witnessed your consistency. The books talked about external validation versus internal motivation, warning against depending too much on others' opinions. But still, Badger's words feel like truth recognized rather than praise sought. The night before the race, you perform one final visualization. But this time, instead of imagining victory, you imagine yourself after the race. Still whole, still you, having attempted something beyond your usual routine. The books called this outcome independence, focusing on the process rather than results. From across the meadow comes the sound of celebration. Hare has organized what sounds like a pre-victory party, complete with the percussion of rabbits drumming their hind feet. You listen to the festivities while watching stars emerge, one by one, each a point of light that has traveled unimaginable distances at its own pace to reach your eyes. Dawn arrives painted in shades of rose and apricot, the air holding that special quality of expectation that comes before significant moments. You've been awake since the first bird sang, not from anxiety, but from a sense of purposeful readiness. Your morning routine unfolds with extra mindfulness, stretching each leg, rotating your neck in slow circles, breathing deeply enough to feel your shell rise and fall. The oak stands majestic in early light, its trunk thick as three badgers standing together, bark grooved with centuries of stories. Already creatures gather in a wide semicircle around the designated starting point. Sparrows line the lower branches like feathered spectators. Field mice cluster in small groups, their whiskers twitching with excitement. Even the usually solitary fox has come to watch, her russet coat gleaming with dew. You approach the starting line with measured steps, implementing the power pose technique you read about, holding your head high despite its natural weight. Each footfall presses firmly into grass, still cool with night's moisture. Your mind cycles through the mantras you've prepared. I am ready. I trust my training. My pace has purpose. Hare bounds onto the scene with characteristic flair, executing a series of impossibly high jumps that send several mice squeaking backwards. His fur looks freshly groomed, his powerful hind legs coiled with energy that seems to vibrate the very air. There he is, he announces, the philosopher Tortoise ready to put his theories to the test. You position yourself at the carved line in the earth that marks the start. Beside you, Hare bounces in place, a blur of brown and white motion. The contrast couldn't be starker. Your stillness against his perpetual movement, your quiet breathing against his showman's chatter. Last chance to back out, Hare stage whispers, loud enough for everyone to hear. No shame in admitting some races aren't meant to be run. You could give a nice speech about knowing your limitations or something. You respond by closing your eyes briefly, centering yourself with the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. 5 things you can see when you open your eyes. The oak's rough bark, morning light through leaves, the distant stream glinting silver, Hare's twitching nose, your own steady feet. 4 things you can hear: birds settling to watch, wind in grass, your calm heartbeat, Hare's rapid breathing. 3 things you can feel: earth beneath you, cool air on your neck, the familiar weight of your shell. Two things you can smell: crushed grass, the green scent of dawn. One thing you can taste: the lingering sweetness of last night's blackberry. Grounded and present, you nod to indicate your readiness. Crow, elected as official starter, perches on a low branch. Her voice carries clear and sharp. From this ancient oak to the stream's near bank, the race begins when I call. Runners ready? You plant your feet firmly, feeling the connection between earth and body that has sustained your kind for millions of years. Beside you, Hare crouches low, his muscles bunched like compressed springs. Set, Crow continues, and the meadow holds its collective breath. Go! Hare explodes forward in a burst of speed that sends grass flying and creates a small whirlwind of dust and pollen. He's already 10 yards away before you've completed your first step, 20 yards by your second. The crowd gasps at the display of pure velocity, some already murmuring that the race is over before it's begun. But you're not watching Hare. You're implementing the internal focus technique, attention turned inward to your own experience. Your first step feels solid, purposeful. Your breathing remains steady, the kind of breathing that could continue for hours without strain. In through the nose, expanding your lungs fully, out through barely parted jaws. Look at him go, someone shouts, and you know they mean Hare, who has already covered a quarter of the distance in the time it's taken you to travel the length of your own shell. But their excitement feels distant, like weather happening in another valley. You maintain what the book's called process focus. Each step receives your full attention. The way your right front foot lifts, swings forward, places down heel first, then rolls to the toes. Then the left hind foot, following in perfect alternating rhythm. Right hind, left front. The pattern as ancient as your species, encoded in bone and muscle memory. Your mantra adjusts to match your movement. Step and breathe. Trust and proceed. Step and breathe. Trust and proceed. The words create a rhythm that carries you forward like a slow but steady current. Hare has reached the halfway point, where a cluster of wild rose bushes marks the meadow's center. He stops, unable to resist the opportunity to perform for the birds following his progress overhead. He runs in a quick circle, kicking up his heels, then calls back, "Tortoise, you still alive back there? Should I send someone to check your pulse?" You don't respond, don't even lift your head to look. You've reached the first dandelion patch, its yellow blooms bright as tiny suns. This was your first visualization checkpoint, and reaching it feels like a small victory. You allow yourself a moment of satisfaction, what the book's called celebrating small wins, before returning focus to the next step. The morning sun climbs higher, warming your shell in that perfect way that makes every cell in your ancient body hum with contentment. You resist the urge to stop and bask, keeping your pace steady. Another gift from your reading. The understanding that discomfort is temporary, but quitting lasts forever. Hare has reached the 3/4 mark. where an old fallen log creates a natural hurdle. He clears it with a leap so magnificent that several rabbits in the crowd thump their appreciation. But then he pauses, looking back to find you still in the first quarter of the course, moving with the inevitability of seasons changing. "This is almost cruel," he calls out, playing to his audience. "Like racing against a stone rolling uphill." He demonstrates his point by hopping backwards, still moving faster than your forward progress. You've discovered something interesting. The mocking doesn't touch you the way it might have before. The words exist, you hear them, but they pass through your awareness like clouds across sky, temporary and insubstantial. Your focus remains on what you can control: this step, this breath, this moment. A butterfly lands briefly on your shell, its wings like stained glass windows catching light. You carry it forward for 3 steps before it lifts off, and you choose to see this as encouragement from the universe, a small blessing on your journey. The books mentioned finding meaning in coincidence. And while you're not sure about signs and portents, the butterfly's brief presence feels like companionship. You've found your rhythm now, what athletes might call the zone, but what feels to you more like returning to an ancient song your species has hummed since time began. The meadow spreads before you like a green ocean, each blade of grass a tiny wave to navigate. You're approaching the second quarter of the distance, marked by a distinctive cluster of white clover that hums with busy bees. The sound of Hare's boasting has faded, which brings a different quality to your journey. Without his commentary, you can hear the meadow's morning symphony, crickets playing their leg violins, a woodpecker keeping time against a distant tree, the whisper of wind through seed heads. These sounds blend with your breathing to create what the meditation book called a soundscape for presence. Your shadow has shortened as the sun climbs toward its zenith. You notice how it moves alongside you like a faithful companion, sometimes stretching ahead when you pass under trees, sometimes pooling beneath you in open ground. Even shadows know how to be flexible, you tell yourself, adding this observation to your growing collection of race day wisdom. A quick movement ahead catches your eye. Hare has reached a grove of young willows that marks the final quarter of the route. Their drooping branches create curtains of green shade, and beneath them, the grass grows thick and cushiony. You watch as Hare stops, no longer performing for crowds, but genuinely pausing to assess the situation. He looks back at you, still steadily approaching the halfway point, and his body language shifts from theatrical to calculating. You see him glance at the stream, measuring the remaining distance, then back at your plodding form. His ears swivel as he performs what seems to be mental mathematics of time and speed. "You know what?" Hare announces to a group of finches perched nearby. "This is almost insulting to my abilities. I could take a proper rest and still beat old Shellback by a country mile." He yawns dramatically, stretching his powerful hind legs. "In fact, that's exactly what I'll do. Wake me when he gets close enough to matter." You continue forward, maintaining focus on your breath and steps, but you can't help observing as Hare settles himself beneath the willows. He turns in 3 circles, as rabbits do when preparing to rest, tamping down a perfect nest in the soft grass. Within moments, his eyes close, his breathing deepens, and his usual vibrating energy stills into sleep. This development might have sparked hope in the old you, might have encouraged you to try moving faster. But your recent studies have taught you about maintaining your own pace regardless of external circumstances. Hare sleeping or hare sprinting, your rhythm remains unchanged. Step and breathe. Trust and proceed. You reach the rosebush, marking the race's midpoint, just as the sun reaches its peak. The pink blooms release perfume into the warm air, and you allow yourself one deep inhale of their sweetness before continuing. Halfway. In your visualization practice, you'd imagined feeling tired at this point, but instead, you feel something the books called flow state. Effort without strain, movement without forcing. A young mouse scurries alongside you for several steps, his tiny legs working furiously to match your pace. "Mr. Tortoise," he squeaks, "aren't you going to go faster now that Hare's sleeping?" "My dear friend," you reply, not breaking stride, "I'm not racing against Hare's speed. I'm racing against my own stopping." The mouse considers this for a moment before darting away, leaving you to wonder if you've just created your first philosophical follower. The afternoon heat builds, creating shimmers above the grass that make the distant stream appear to dance. You employ the cooling breath technique, drawing air slowly across your tongue before exhaling through your nose. Your shell, usually a burden in heat, today feels like armor, carrying you forward with purpose. You pass the second dandelion patch, then a fallen branch you'd noted during reconnaissance, then a patch where wild strawberries will bloom next month. Each landmark represents progress, what the goal-setting book called milestone moments. You don't celebrate dramatically, but you acknowledge each with a small nod, honoring your consistency. Under the willows, Hare sleeps deeply, his whiskers twitching with dreams. A blue jay lands on a branch above him, cocking its head at the strange sight of the meadow's fastest creature napping during a race. The bird seems to consider raising an alarm, then flies on, perhaps understanding that some lessons must be learned without interference. You've entered the race's third quarter now, and something interesting happens. The crowd, which had dispersed when Hare began showing off near the stream, starts reassembling. Word has spread through the meadow's efficient gossip network. Tortoise is still going. Hare is sleeping. The impossible might be possible, but you don't let their gathering energy affect your pace. The books warned about external pressure to perform and how it can disrupt internal rhythm. You return to your mantras, cycling through them like prayer beads. I trust my pace. Every step has value. Progress, not perfection. Journey, not destination. A cloud passes over the sun, bringing momentary coolness. You notice how your shadow disappears, then returns as the cloud moves on. Presence comes and goes, you reflect, but movement continues. This feels profound in a way that makes you wish you could add it to your sand journal later. 3/4 distance now. The willows are ahead, their green curtains swaying gently. You can make out Hare's sleeping form, curled in a perfect circle like a breathing apostrophe. Part of you wonders if you should make noise, accidentally wake him in fairness. But another chapter from your reading surfaces. You are not responsible for others' choices, only for your own integrity. So you pass by quietly, your ancient feet barely disturbing the grass. Hare's ears don't even twitch as you move beyond his resting place. The stream is visible now, really visible. Not just a silver suggestion in the distance, but actual water catching afternoon light. Your destination, your finish line. Behind you, a murmur builds among the watching creatures. Some begin moving toward the stream, wanting to witness what increasingly seems possible. But you don't turn to look, don't alter your pace. The book spoke of finishing energy, the surge that comes near a goal's completion. You feel it building in your chest, but you channel it into focus rather than speed. The stream draws closer with each deliberate step, its voice changing from distant whisper to clear conversation. You can distinguish individual notes now. The gurgle around smooth stones, the splash where water drops from a tiny ledge, the steady murmur of current meeting bank. Your feet find the path worn by generations of creatures coming to drink, the earth packed, firm and smooth. Behind you, the meadow holds its breath. Even the insects seem to pause their buzzing, creating a pocket of anticipation that follows your steady progress. But you remain centered in your own experience, practicing what the books called staying present at the threshold of achievement. 50 steps from the stream. You count them not from anxiety, but from mindfulness, each number a marker of distance traveled rather than distance remaining. The afternoon light slants golden through the trees, creating patterns on the ground that shift with the breeze. You notice everything with crystalline clarity, the way moss grows on the north side of stones, how certain grasses bend toward water, the particular shade of mud where earth meets stream. 40 steps. A dragonfly zooms past, its wings catching light like living stained glass. You've read that dragonflies symbolize transformation, and while you're still the same tortoise who started this journey, something has shifted inside your ancient shell. Not speed, certainly, but perhaps understanding. 30 steps. You hear a commotion behind you, Hare's distinctive voice rising in panic. What? How? Where? But you don't turn. Your focus remains forward, not from competitive spirit, but from commitment to completion. The books emphasized finishing what you start as a practice that builds trust with yourself. 20 steps. Your reflection appears in a still pool beside the main current, and you see yourself as if for the first time. Shell dusty from the journey, head extended with purpose, eyes clear and focused. You look like a creature who knows where they're going and why. 10 steps. The sound of rapid thumping fills the air, as Hare launches himself from the willows in a desperate sprint. You can feel the vibration of his powerful legs striking earth, can hear the crowd's excitement building. But these sensations exist at the periphery of your awareness, like weather in a distant valley. 5 steps. The stream bank beneath your feet feels different, softer, marked by the constant presence of water. Small plants grow here that grow nowhere else in the meadow, adapted to this margin between elements. You feel a kinship with them, understanding adaptation in a new way. 3 steps. 2 steps. 1 step. Your right front foot touches the water, and coolness travels up your leg like a message of arrival. You wade in until all 4 feet stand in the gentle current, feeling the water flow around you like liquid congratulations. Only then do you turn to see Hare skidding to a stop at the bank, his eyes wide with disbelief. The meadow erupts in a symphony of chirps, squeaks, and chatters. But you barely hear it. You're too busy feeling the profound satisfaction of completion, of following through on a commitment despite all logic suggesting otherwise. The books called this intrinsic reward, the prize that comes from within rather than without. But how? Hare sputters, his usual eloquence deserting him. I'm faster. Everyone knows I'm faster. This doesn't make sense. You wade back to the bank, water dripping from your ancient feet. You are faster, you agree, your voice carrying the calm of deep waters. Speed was never in question, but this wasn't a race about speed. Of course it was about speed. All races are about speed. Hare's ears flatten against his head, confusion replacing his usual cockiness. This race, you say, settling onto a sunny stone to let the water dry from your feet, was about finishing. You've always been able to start fast, Hare, but how many things have you finished? The question hangs in the air like pollen. Around you, the gathered creatures grow quiet, perhaps thinking of their own unfinished projects, abandoned burrows, half-built nests. Hare opens his mouth to argue, then closes it. His whiskers droop as he considers your words. But I could have won, he says, finally, more to himself than to you. I had it won from the first step. You had the ability to win, you correct gently, remembering a chapter on compassionate truth-telling. But ability without application is like seeds without soil. It holds potential that never blooms. As the afternoon fades toward evening, creatures begin dispersing, carrying with them a story different from what they expected. Not a tale of upset victory or clever trickery, but something quieter and perhaps more lasting. The power of simply continuing. You make your way back across the meadow as sunset paints the sky in shades of peach and lavender. Your pace is the same as this morning, the same as during the race, the same as it's always been. But something has changed in how you inhabit that pace. It no longer feels like limitation, but like choice. Near your burrow, you find the books still tucked beneath the blackberry bush where you left them. Tomorrow, perhaps, another creature will discover them and find their own journey between the pages. But their work with you is complete. The lessons have moved from paper into practice, from reading into living. As night settles over the meadow like a soft blanket, you perform your evening gratitude ritual with special attention. Thank you for strong legs that carried you the entire distance. Thank you for lungs that breathed steadily throughout. Thank you for a shell that provides home and protection. Thank you for a mind capable of growth at any age. You settle into your burrow as the first stars appear, your body tired in that satisfying way that comes from effort well spent. Tomorrow you will return to your usual routine, the morning emergence, the steady circuit of the meadow, the simple pleasures of sun and shade and fresh greens. But you'll carry with you the knowledge that you are capable of more than you knew, not through changing who you are, but through fully being who you've always been. The moon rises full and silver, casting shadows that turn the familiar meadow mysterious and magical. From somewhere in the darkness comes the sound of Hare, running as always, but his gait seems different now, less frantic perhaps, more thoughtful. Or maybe that's just your imagination, painting the world with the soft brush of completion and contentment. As you drift towards sleep in your cozy burrow, the day's events settle through your consciousness like silt in still water. Your breathing naturally slows to match the rhythm you've practiced, each inhale drawing in the cool earth scent of home, each exhale releasing any remaining tension from your journey. The race feels both immediate and ancient now, as if it happened moments ago, and also in some timeless place where all important stories live. You think of Hare, probably still puzzling over what occurred, his quick mind trying to race around a truth that can only be reached slowly. Perhaps he, too, will find his own books someday, his own teachers disguised as forgotten objects in unexpected places. Your shell settles deeper into the soft earth you've shaped perfectly to your contours over countless nights. How many circles around the sun have you made? How many seasons have painted the meadow in different colors while you maintained your steady path? The number doesn't matter. What matters is that today you proved something to yourself about persistence, about the power of showing up step after step after step. In the darkness of your burrow, you smile in the way tortoises smile, a feeling more than an expression. The meadow above continues its nighttime symphony, an owl calling from the oak that marked your starting line. Crickets keeping time like tiny metronomes, the stream singing its endless song of movement and stillness combined. Your eyes grow heavy as your body temperature drops to match the cooling earth. This is the gift of being cold-blooded, the ability to synchronize with the world rather than fighting against it. Tonight, that synchronization feels especially profound. You are exactly where you need to be, having done exactly what you needed to do, being exactly who you are. Sleep approaches like fog rolling across the meadow, soft and enveloping. In this drowsy space between waking and dreaming, you understand that every creature has their own perfect pace. Hare has his lightning swiftness, valuable for escaping predators and covering vast territories. You have your measured steps, perfect for the long journey of a life that spans decades. Neither is better. Both are necessary. The meadow needs all kinds of movement to remain in balance. Your breathing has become so slow now that the pause between breaths stretches like a peaceful eternity. In, hold, out, rest. This is the rhythm that will carry you through the night, the same rhythm that carried you across the meadow today. Reliable, sustainable, yours. The last conscious thought before sleep takes you is not of victory or vindication, but of gratitude for the books that found you at just the right moment, for the challenge that helped you discover strength you already possessed, for a shell that serves as both burden and blessing, for 4 sturdy legs that know how to keep going when going seems impossible, and most of all, for the simple gift of being a tortoise in a meadow where the grass grows green, the stream runs clear, and every dawn brings a new opportunity to take one step, then another, moving through the world at exactly the right speed, your own. Your breathing deepens into the rhythm of true sleep, joining the peaceful chorus of the night. Somewhere above, stars wheel in their ancient patterns, and the moon continues its own steady journey across the sky. And here, in a burrow, perfectly sized for one ancient tortoise, dreams begin to bloom like flowers that only open in darkness. And so our tale comes to rest. Sweet dreams.
Sleep, sweet, drift away. Tomorrow brings a brand new day. Dream, dream, to sail so far. You're my precious little star. The world is still, dreams are waiting on the hill. Float on clouds of color and light, everything will be alright.